Hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy, the Mad Guy, going up here today. I just thought I'd do a bit of a rant here, and I've talked about this before in the past about remasters, remakes, reboots in terms of games, um, and I just played a little bit of the Crisis remaster, and I gotta say that wow, you know. It's disappointing as hell. It sucks. It is. I never played the original Crisis game, so I can't really compare the two. I've heard the first game wasn't amazing anyway. It was, you know, and this isn't just my opinion here. I've heard some bad things about the Crisis remaster. And it's got me thinking, these remakes and remasters. Now, first of all, I want to start by saying a remake and a remaster is a completely different thing. It might sound the same, but it isn't. A remaster is when they basically take an old game, basically keep it the same, but just update a few things for a current generation of consoles, right? And then a remake is where they take an old game or a game and they just completely build it up from the ground. There have been some great remakes. The Resident Evil remakes were spot on. The Crash Bandicoot games, the Spyro games, and the thing is, remakes and remasters are they're in it's kind of a split thing really. They have their pros and they have their cons. Obviously, the pros would be if you haven't played the original games and you don't have an original console to play it on, like an old PS1 game or a PS2 game. It's a good way for people to play the games for the first time on a PS4 or an Xbox or PS5 or whatever it comes out on. And it's a good way for people to experience the game for the first time. It's also good for people that may have nostalgia for these old games, may not own the old consoles or the old games anyway, and they can re-experience some of their stuff. But I just got to say that the remaster of Crisis was lackluster as hell. Now, like I said, it was an older game anyway, but at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, I think those games are respected enough in the gaming community that it warranted a remaster wasn't off the cards at all. But the problem is a lot of these companies think, oh yeah, let's remaster a game because maybe we haven't put a game out in a while. Let's remaster an old game, and people are gonna buy it because oh yeah, I remember playing that game on the Xbox or the PS3 or the PS1 or whatever, and going, oh yeah, it's great. I can go back and re-experience some of this stuff. And the problem is they don't put enough effort into it. See, when you're making a game for the first time, you want to make a good impression, right? It's not always the case. I know, for example, there are a ton of games that were first games, and but you want to make a good impression, right? Whereas a remaster is they think, well, we've already got the game. All we need to do is update a few things, and boom, we've got 40 quid in our pocket per person, right? Or whatever it may be. But man, I gotta say that I was playing that Crisis game and it just felt really. First of all, the game felt average at best. Like the actual gameplay didn't feel nothing special to me. I've heard the second and third game are much better anyway, and I'll probably check those out at some point. But it felt really stiff as well. When I was aiming and shooting, the character just felt really stiff for some reason. It was trying to lock onto an enemy and it weren't. And it just, I was not enjoying it. I played it for like an hour or so, and I was like, no, I don't think I'm going to go back to this one. But there have been some great remasters and reboots of old games. Like I said, the Crash Bandicoot games. It makes sense to go back and remaster or remake or reboot old series, right? Because, how many people own the original Resident Evil 2 now, or how many people own the original Crash Bandicoot games, that aren't, hardcore collectors, for example. And the thing is, like I said, there is a good reasoning behind it, but then there are games that come out and you think, why have they remastered this game? Why have they tried to make this game again? If the game didn't do well to begin with, what makes you think it's going to do well the second time around, right? It's like they're trying to cash in on something, it's like Coca-Cola releasing a flavour of Coke, and then 5 years later going, oh, we're going to re-release it, even though the first time around it didn't, do very well. It's like, what's the point? It'd be like Panasonic going, oh, we're going to make a new 3DO console, or Philips going, oh, we're going to make the CDI version 2. And you think to yourself, why would anyone want that? It was a very niche market to begin with. What makes you think it's going to be more loved the second time around, right? And it really fucking sucks, because you think to yourself, if you've never played the original game, you think, okay, the remaster's going to be better than the original. But that's not always the case. A lot of the time, the games are buggy as hell. There's not enough effort put into it. There are some great remasters out there. The Mafia trilogy, I enjoyed playing the Mafia trilogy. I know it had some problems to begin with, but they updated it and they fixed some things, which I'm not even going to go into that style, that type of thing, when it comes to gaming nowadays, and that's why I've been enjoying playing some of these old PS3 and PS2 games on my XS3, and experiencing some games for the first time. And I'm going to be honest with you, gaming at the moment for me it's not stale for me, but it takes a lot for a game to really hold my interest now. And the only times I'm really going to put a lot of time into a game is if it's a game that when I play. For me, a game is like a date for me. They always say, within the first 10-15 minutes of a date, you'll know if you want to see that person again. It's the same with gaming for me. Within the first half an hour or so of playing a game, I've already decided whether or not I'm going to come back to it, or it's a game that I'm not going to come back to. There are a couple of games out there, like I said, that had a decent remaster, like that were games that were kind of underrated. Like, it makes sense if you're going to remaster an underrated game, right? Like Vanquish and Bayonetta, those games were remastered on the PS4 and Xbox One, and those games were really fun to begin with, but they weren't like well-known games. Not many people that I knew had played the original Vanquish game, but it was a really fun game, and I replayed some of it the other day, the original version anyway. But and I think to myself, it makes sense if you're gonna do a game that has a decent following, a cult following, then fine. And obviously there are different types of remasters. Don't even get me started on like Blu-rays and things. That's a different market altogether. Maybe I'll do a video on that in the future. But anyway, going back to what I said about gaming, like I said, if I put in, let's say, I don't know, I just threw in, a random game. Let's say I threw in this game, Victor's Rant, just the game that I picked up. I can play this game for half an hour and then go, okay, am I going to come back to it? Is it going to be a game that I'll put on the shelf and never play again? Is it a game I'm just going to get rid of? Is it a game, obviously, this is why, I'm happy with having a pretty all-digital thing, is because at least if I've got digital games, if I don't, I might not regret selling them again. Because like I said, there are some games that I play and I think I might come back to them one day, and then I've ended up selling the game and going, oh, well, I can't come back to it now. So at least with digital market, I don't have to worry about that. And it's got me thinking, this is the problem with my XS3 and why the retro games and stuff. A lot of people say to me, why did you get rid of your retro games? And I've already said this and I'll say it again. I can play a retro game for about 5 minutes and then that's it for me. There are some games like the old Atari and NES and Vectrex and that sort of stuff. I play them for a couple of seconds, maybe not even 2 minutes, and then I've gone, well, do you know what? I don't think I'm going to play this again. You know, maybe that's the ADHD in me, but again, I think to myself, you know, back in the day, these games would have been, you know, it was this or nothing, right? But now, because I've got so much choice, you know, I'm thinking, why do I want to spend 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, the time that I have for gaming, that I set aside for gaming, playing a game that I'm not enjoying, I'm not having fun with, just to say, oh, I've beaten the game. And that's the thing, you know, I don't beat every game that I own. You know, there are some games, like I said, within half an hour, if I like this game, I'm going to come back to it. You know, there are games like Fallout and Skyrim, games that, you know, you can play for hours and hours and hours on end, take a break from it and come back to it in like 2 or 3 months' time and go, I'm enjoying it again. The same thing, like that. The same thing that happened, like the Sims games, for example. The Sims games have always been games that I've come back to. You know, I've played them, you know, and I play them for like 2-3 days, 2 weeks, or whatever. And then I go, you know what? I'm going to take a break from it, and then I'll come back to it because I still enjoy the game. It's just, it's not a game that made me needing to play it straight away, and that's why I like some RPGs and games that may not have like a traditional end, you know, traditional format of linear gameplay, a start and a finish. I've always said I prefer games that have a start and a finish, right? Because once you start a game and once you finish it, that's it. You don't need to go back to it unless there's extra stuff in it. Whereas if you've got RPGs and Sims and stuff like that, they're sort of games you can play and go, I can play it for months and hours or days or whatever, and then you can come back to it whenever you want, and it's not like you've lost any time on it, you know. And like I said, the thing is, I recently played like the Lord of the Rings Conquest game, and that's a game that I knew I enjoyed to begin with, but it was only like a 5 or 6 hour game, and I've played it and I've beaten both stories now. And am I going to come back to it? Probably not. Maybe one day I'll just come back to it to have a couple of matches and mess around for half an hour or whatever on it, but I just don't see the point in replaying games or trying 100% games nowadays, because to me, I just don't, you know, I don't have a lot of time for gaming as it is, and even when I am playing games, I can easily get bored, and this is why when it comes to like Super Nintendo and Sega and all of this, it takes a lot for one of those games to hold my attention. And, you know, maybe I'm spoiled by the modern generation. Maybe I've got used to the modern generation of games. But, you know, there's pros and cons for each. And I've already talked about this in many details, really. And like I said, to be honest, I've been enjoying watching movies and watching TV shows because there's no disappointment there for me. I can watch a movie and go, oh, that was the worst hour and a half I ever spent in my life. But at the same time, I don't feel angry at the movie. I don't feel angry at myself. Whereas if I'm playing a shitty video game, I feel, well, that was a waste of time. That was, you know, I could have played something better. And you know, like I said, I don't get angry at movies. I don't get pissed off at TV shows. You know, whereas video games, they can do all of that to you. You know, they can piss you off and stuff like that. You know, because this is why I don't buy games anymore. You know, this is why I don't go out and pay £60 for a brand new game. Because why would I want to spend £60 on a game and find out I don't like it? You know. And maybe I can get a bit of money back if I buy it physical, but at the same time, it's like, what's the point, you know? And that's the thing, you know. I maybe some people might be disappointed that my channel is gone in this opposite direction now, and we're not buying games anymore. But at the same time, who's what? But yeah, you know, and some people might be disappointed in this, but like I said, well, there's a few reasons why I'm not collecting games anymore. But, you know, like I said, to me, like I said, I don't have a lot of free time anyway, and I'd rather use a bit of my free time maybe watching a film or playing a little bit of a game than spending hours and hours on video games. You know, there are more important things in life than video games. Like I said, I like my little setup that I've got. You know, it keeps me happy. What more can you ask for? You know, but I just thought I'd share these little thoughts on this, and I just want to warn anyone: do not play the Crysis remastered game, because maybe you might enjoy it if you enjoyed the original game, but I felt it was lackluster, it was boring, it was average at best, and you know, to me, I just can't, you know, I'm glad I didn't pay for it. I think it was a free game on PlayStation, or it was on PlayStation Now, one or the other. And that's why, in some senses, I prefer Game Pass and things, because there's a lot of indie games on there. At least with an indie game, you don't feel disappointed. You know, you go, well, I can understand if the game wasn't perfect, because it weren't thing. But when you've got these AAA developers, you expect a game to be good, right? I mean, look at the GTA remastered. Everyone thought that was going to be the next big thing, and it released in a really bland, terrible state. And that just seems to be how gaming is at the moment. And that's why I won't be going back and buying brand new games anymore. But I just thought I'd share these thoughts with you anyway. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'll probably get some video stuff. My partner starts work today, but she's working in the afternoon / evening. So it's not going to be a massive change for me. But anyway, if you enjoyed today's video, feel free to leave a like, and of course comment below. Let me know your thoughts on remasters, remakes, the state of gaming today, if you will. And let me know if you know, like I said, if you're disappointed by the fact that I'm not really focusing a lot of game stuff nowadays. I'm sorry. I don't know what to say, really, you know. I've never been disappointed watching Laura and Hardy, but I could be really disappointed by spending 30-40 quid on one game and getting pissed off by that, you know what I'm saying? So, and as always, guys, subscribe if you haven't already, and join the family. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the Mad Tiger, and as always, have a nice day, and I will see you in the week. I have got some videos planned out. I'm going to do a bit of writing some stuff out and get some more videos sorted, and take care.